Recording. Boom. So, hey, everybody, all of our Trio Central and ESL students with us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our active listening and communication skills workshop. Um, with us today, we have our very own Dr. Carole Hargrett. She's a professor here at BC Broward College, and she teaches
Speech communication and student life skills classes.
exactly. I was gonna say like public speaking.
That's
I was
right.
like
That's
looking for. I was
correct.
like, public speaking. But yeah, speech communication and which is critical, crucial for students, especially who are looking to move into more professional atmosphere, looking to step their game up when it comes to their career, what career they're looking to get into, being having you know a a good foundation in communication and listening skills is so important. So so yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna step aside and Dr. Hargert, take it away.
Welcome, welcome, welcome this afternoon. It's a pleasure being here with you as usual. I love doing these little mini workshops. And today we are talking about active listening and communication. That's the workshop we're doing today. Active listening and communication. You've got a bunch of folks coming in now, Thomas.
Yeah, they're coming in. We got
Yep,
Jessica, welcome. We've got
yeah,
Carlene,
yeah,
Cindy, Marie. Oh my gosh, this is great.
yeah. And
Loving it.
Darlene just came, or just Darlene just was in the waiting area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jonathan's helping me to admit him. Thank you,
yep.
Jonathan.
And so in this workshop, we are going to help you to really think about how you listen. Are you an active listener or a passive listener? And how do you identify those listening abilities and skills, and how do you change that? And then you certainly want to learn how to communicate well, to communicate with your advisors, to communicate with your professors, and to communicate, period. That's what I teach on a daily basis, effective communication. And I cannot tell you how important effective communication is and how much employers are looking for communication skills, no matter what field you go into. Whether you're going into nursing, whether you're going to be a solo entrepreneur that they call it these days, whether you're going into business or education, communication skills are important. So learning them in college and understanding what it takes to have effective communication is what we're going to do in this mini workshop. Take a look at the picture, the little mini video here, and tell me what's wrong. What do you see in it? What's going on in this in terms of communication? What do you see? You can put it in the chat, or you can certainly open your mic and just tell us your observations. What's going on with the students and the faculty in this class?
It doesn't seem like the professor is really engaging with the students.
Excellent. Thank you, Ghislaine or Ghislaine. What else? What are the students doing?
Hey, Dr. Hargrett. So we have Amanda that says the speaker's back is turned to the class.
Yes.
Joelle has said the students aren't really engaged.
Yes.
Joyce has said by their body language, the students look bored. We have, they coming in now. People trying to stay awake. Somebody else said they're not really paying attention. Yeah, everybody says the students are really bored. So that's what's going on in the chat right now, guys. Keep replying. What do you
Good.
guys think?
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So in the back, we have the guy who's doing this. That is surely a look of boredom, or I would say at least passive listening, because usually if you're doing this, you're like, this professor is so boring. I don't know why I'm in this class. I could be getting my lunch. And so then you have the young lady with the blonde hair, and she's actually looking at in her mirror. If you notice, she's, prepping herself in a mirror. And other students do not seem to be paying attention. And so the faculty has his back. I'm assuming him, it could be a lady too, to the class. And so what you see in the students and the faculty is exactly what you've just said, just total disengagement. So why does this happen, guys, in classes? What's going on? How do you develop effective listening skills even in a boring class? Are all classes going to be innovative and fun like mine are? No, not necessarily. Some where you're going to see the back of the professor more than you see the front of the professor. Have you ever experienced that in a face-to-face class? Yes, no? Let me see. I figured
No.
folks, no, you've never really faced with a, yes, Amir says, yes, very often. And so you have that professor that likes to write on the board a lot, and then they might even be speaking, but they're speaking to the board while they're writing instead of engaging you. Then you may have a Zoom class, and the professor might just be lecturing and lecturing and lecturing without even a break to say, are there any questions?
Right.
And so how do you develop good listening skills when there's a poor listening situation? And why should you still be an active listener even when it seems boring? Why don't we listen sometimes, even when the information is important? I'll say to my students, pay special attention here. This is important. And then a week later, I will have students who'll say, but I didn't know I was supposed to do that. But nobody told me that. What was the problem there? What was the problem? Was it passive listening or active listening? What were the students doing then?
Passive listening.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So can you improve that? The answer is yes, you actually can. Now, I let me make sure that this is showing well. Want to show you a little video clip. It's a very short, less than 2 minutes, but for those of you who ever have watched The Big Bang Theory, just want you to pay attention to this, right?
First, there was PlayStation, aka PS1. Then there's PS2, PS3, and now PS4. And that makes sense. You'd think after Xbox, there'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One. Why one? Maybe that's how many seconds of thought they put into naming it.
Can you get the butter, please?
However, with the Xbox One, I can control my entire entertainment system using
Oh, I'm sorry.
voice commands. Up until now, I've had to use Leonard.
Then get the other one. Pass the butter.
Hang on. I don't feel like you're taking this dilemma seriously.
Fine, Sheldon. You have my undivided attention.
Okay, now, the PS4 is more angular and sleek looking.
No way!
It's true, but the larger size of the Xbox One may keep it from overheating.
You wouldn't want your gaming system to overheat?
No, well, you absolutely would not. And furthermore, the Xbox One now comes with a Kinect included.
Included?
Yes! Not sold separately. Although the PS4 uses cool new GDDR5 RAM, while the Xbox One is still using the conventional DDR3 memory.
Why would they still be using DDR3? Are they nuts?
See, that's what I thought. But then they go and throw in an ES RAM buffer.
Whoa, wait a second. Who's they?
The Xbox.
You're kidding!
No, I am not. And this ES RAM buffer should totally bridge the 100 gigabit per second bandwidth gap between the two RAM types.
This is a nightmare. How will you ever make a decision?
You see, I don't know. What should I do?
Please pass the butter!
So, what do you think, guys? What was going on in that fun skit that is important for you to take note of as you are in your classes and you're listening? What is it that happened at the beginning, and then what was pronounced at the end of the video? She said she sounds exactly like me. It's good. Kathleen, what was going on though? Was she listening actively in the beginning or passively? Yes, Joyce. Yes, she was listening passively. How did you know? How could you tell? Yes, Joel says passively, then actively, a little too actively, but she definitely was listening actively the second time. And Carlene said both. Yes, in the beginning, it was a very passive, because she probably wasn't interested. Passive because she didn't really care. Yeah, she didn't really care. And then, but I want you to think about instances where you may be in a situation, especially in a classroom, and you do not necessarily engage active listening. What happens when it comes to getting doing a test or getting ready for an exam when you listen passively? What happens? Now, before you answer that question, I want to just show you this. It's a very quick video, but I want you to see the very first part of the video and then the second part of the video for you to see exactly what it takes to go from, and you have to intentionally allow yourself to do this, to go from a passive listener to an active listener. So watch this real fast.
Peter, I want to talk to you about this afternoon's client meeting because there's something very particular I wanted to make sure that you know about.
Yeah,
the
I
way
know.
this
We got to
group
get the
is.
food there on time this time, Joanne.
Yes, we have to get the food on time, but
So
that's not it.
embarrassing.
This is a culturally different group than what we're used to.
Well, we can't
And-
order Chinese food?
No, it's not the Chinese food. It's that this group manages Q&A differently.
I just want to make sure that Chinese food is better than it was last time.
It's not the food. It's
so
the Q&A.
embarrassing both times. I can't believe it.
Peter, it's the way they manage Q&A. They're not
Q&A
gonna
is
be as-
not a problem for me, Joanne. I'm really fine with Q&A. It's where I shine.
It's not you. It's them.
How's
they
my
don't.
tie?
The tie's fine.
Okay, good. Don't worry about the Q&A. It'll be fine. I'll see you later.
Peter, you're not listening to me.
So you notice there that the assistant was trying to convey really, really good information to the supervisor or the boss or whomever, whatever that relationship was, but he wasn't listening. So now I want you to pay attention, and you're going to see an example of that going from a passive listening situation to an active listening situation.
Ignore distractions and focus. First, don't interrupt. Second, make good eye contact. And third, paraphrase for understanding.
Peter, I want to talk to you about this afternoon's client meeting because there's something very particular I want to make sure you know about this group.
All right, what is it?
Well, they're a Japanese group. They don't interact during Q&A in the same way.
So what does it mean for me?
Well, it means that you should probably plan to lecture a little bit more and then break into smaller groups. Don't expect the same amount of interaction.
Okay, so for Q&A, really don't expect that lecture more because they're not going to say too much.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's it.
Okay, see you later.
Good. And hey, I like that tie.
Now, in a classroom,
Consulting services and tips, go to Don't Quit.
in a classroom, how does that translate? When you're talking to your advisor and they give you certain information, how does that translate? Are you a passive or active listener? And what is it going to take for you to change your listening style? So for the most part, would you say that you're an active listener or a passive listener? Put that in the chat. You can just say passive or active. And I mean, put yourself in the classroom. I'm asking in the classroom or in college, are you more of an active listener? And be honest with yourselves. Are you more of a passive or active listener? Good, good, good. And thanks for your honesty there. Some of you say you're active, some say passive, then active. Some of you say both, and some of you say active. So I can see that you're really, you know, I mean, and it's important to be honest about this, because we are not all born to be active listeners. Some of us have to make the effort to listen actively. What do you have to do though, in order to do that? What do you have to do to listen actively? Now, there was a recent study, well, it wasn't that recent to be frank, but it is a really solid study that says that effective listening, and this was among 125 college students, they found that there's a strong correlation or a strong relationship between effective, active listening and success in college. And this has supported previous studies in the field that links good listening skills with grade point average. Now that is major. What that means is the more you give yourself the opportunity to listen actively in your courses, in your classes, to your advisors. Your advisor may say to you, there's a deadline for this scholarship. And you hear scholarship and you hear deadline, but you don't necessarily note the date. 2 weeks later, you apply for the scholarship and you say to your advisor, hey, Jonathan, guess what? That scholarship is closed. How come you told me to apply for that scholarship and it's closed? But guess what? Jonathan told you what the date and the deadline was. You were not listening passively, actively, you were listening passively. And you lost an opportunity for a scholarship. So understanding sometimes that you have to almost say to yourself, I am going to become a more active listener. It's not easy. I had to force myself. I tend to be one of those listeners that listen for a couple of minutes or seconds and then interrupt and say, like I assume that I know exactly what you're going to say. Some people will just shut up and not even say whether or not they were going to say that or not. They figure, hey, look, you don't want to listen, that's your business. Some people will say, if you let me continue, maybe you would have heard what I had to say. And some people will say, you know that that's rude, you keep on interrupting. And so the bottom line is we have to recognize our listening style or our listening ability. Needless to say, the more we pay attention, especially in those boring classes. For me, science and math tended to be boring classes, I cannot lie, because I was more of an English, history, education major. So I cannot tell you that I was thrilled to be in a science course. But in order to pass science and in order to pass math, I had to listen. Reading, guys, is not enough. Just reading the material is not enough. You have to listen to what the instructor is saying to you in order for you to be able to really do well in your courses. What do you think about that statement? Do you agree or disagree? So Thomas says math and science can be boring. Yeah, they can be boring. And science professors are not necessarily, I'm not stereotyping, but what I would say, my own opinion, science and math professors sometimes can be very deadpan, very, to the point, not necessarily Mr. and Mrs. Personality, but that doesn't mean that they don't have really valuable information that you need to get in order to do well in college. When students listen and they catch the instructions, the pointers, the feedback, and the hints, they can use to make the assignment better or get a better score on the test. So listening to things like, this is going to be important. This is going to be on your test. Pay attention. When a professor or instructor says that, that's what you're going to have to do. The other thing is to say to yourself, listen, I'm going to go see my advisor or my instructor today. If I'm not a good listener, let me write down some pointers. Okay. Let me make sure that I write down dates and deadlines so that I am making sure that I can do well in my courses. So here's some tips for you to be able to engage yourself when you get to class. Before you get to class, make sure that you're not hungry, that your stomach is not rumbling as soon as you get into the classroom. What's going to happen if you're hungry and you get into the classroom and the professor is giving you some really good information? But what happens when you're hungry? What happens to your listening skills when you're hungry? Yeah, you can't focus. Yes, thank you, Jeanette. It's not easy to concentrate. You ignore what's being said. Exactly. You cannot pay attention, Cindy, right? Because you're thinking to yourself, man, I'm hungry. I should have had that bar, or should have had that that muffin or that donut before I got to class. Maybe I can slip out of class early and go to Dunkin' Donuts before my next class. And those are some of the things that you might be saying to yourself instead of paying attention to your professor. Amanda says it's going to be a barrier to active listening because you're no longer alert. Exactly, Amanda. That's an excellent answer. You cannot be as alert as you need to be. Jonathan says everything reminds you of a Chick-fil-A. Isn't that the truth? So get yourself, I mean, if you don't have time to stop, at least get yourself something that you can eat quickly, like some kind of Nutri-Grain bar, or some fruit. An apple is good, something that will curb the hunger. Arrive at each class prepared. Do the reading. And so now that you've done the reading, you're listening to hear what you don't understand or what you didn't understand from the reading. Arrive to class on time. When you're late, you're distracted. You're discombobulated. You couldn't find parking. You had to rush to class. You know the professor frowns upon lateness. So now you're feeling apprehensive about going into the classroom. You don't want to go into the classroom because you don't want all the students' eyes on you because you're late. And especially if you're not an active listener, it's better to sit in the front of the class. And I'm talking about a physical classroom. If you're in Zoom, then these things still apply. Still be prepared, still arrive on time. I cannot tell you how many of my students, and it's not a lot, probably I have a Zoom public speaking course or a speech communication course this session. and I have about 5 students who always come in about 15 minutes late. Needless to say, most of the time, those students are not doing as well as the students who come on time. And then be mentally prepared to learn. Put yourself in that position. Guys, especially if the material is difficult. If math and science is difficult for you, be mentally prepared to open your mind with a growth mindset to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to succeed. And then don't be distracted in class, because a lot of things will distract you, like the hunger, you know, like thinking, oh my God, I'll never get this done. So your mindset needs to be good. And then, you know, you need to make sure that you're fed. Now, when you find a good seat and you're comfortable, you can pay attention purposefully. Listen for verbal cues. Verbal cues are, this is important. This is going to be on the quiz. Pay special attention here. I would suggest that you take notes. Those are verbal cues. Listen for them. And don't let your mind wander, especially if you find the professor or the instructor boring. Don't let your mind wander. And take notes. If you know that you're not a really good listener, take notes, right? Now, I want you now, we're now going to switch to how to communicate with your professors. And I want you to watch this video, and then we're going to talk about how to communicate with your professors. Well, the video was there, just a second. Let's see. Let me know if you can hear it.
Talking to your college professor? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Just playing. Believe me, talking to your college professor can be very intimidating and very scary, but it is very critical to your college success that you meet with them regularly, get their advice, and get to know them. In this video, I'm going to discuss with you guys some ways that you can get over that fear and talk to your college professors. What's up, you guys? I'm Don from Get Schooled, and as always, it is our goal that we get you guys to college, help you guys succeed in college, and help you guys get your first job. If you guys have been enjoying our content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you guys don't miss any content that we put out. Alright, first things first is that it is extremely important to remember that your professors are real people. I know they can be very intimidating and some of them can feel like Professor Snape, but they are really good people. Getting to know them as a person will help you realize that they really are just like you and me. And at the end of the day, they really want to make sure that you're doing well and that you can graduate and succeed with a college education. Every professor offers office hours, and I highly recommend going in there to get some additional support and advice. This is a fantastic chance for you to get to know your professor, ask them questions about the syllabus, reading assignments, upcoming exams, and maybe even a bit about their research and experiences in college. If you are struggling with any class, I highly recommend that you go to your professor's office hours and talk to them immediately. And remember that your professors really want to see you succeed, but they can't help you if they don't know that you need it. There you have it. Those are a few easy steps for you to muster up some courage and talk to your professors. Please do not be afraid of them because they are real people. If you guys are enjoying our content, make sure.
So, do you know your professor's hours? How many of you know the office hours of your professors? Do you know where their office is located?
Yes.
Yes, good. Honestly, I don't. Yes, it's typically provided in the syllabus. I do, Jessica says. Darlene says yes. You know what? I find that students who attend workshops and the like are usually the ones that do all the rest of the stuff as well. We hope so, right, guys? And Jeanette says that you know the professor's office hours. So let me ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. What class do you have and what building is your professor located in? Our trio students on point. Yeah, they're on point. So if it's a math class, generally, where on Central Camp, are these Central Campus students mostly, or are they from all over? South Central, we're from all over. All right, okay. So I'm going to ask a Central Campus question because I know this better than South, and definitely I don't know it about North. But if you have a math class, what building is usually, where are the math professors located? Do you know? What building? The number, building number? Or just tell me where it's located on campus. Anyone know? Math? Building 9, room 111, Central. Building 5. Anyone else? Any computer science majors in the room? Anyone know where the computer science building is on Central? Building 3. Guys, it's important that you know where your professors are located. I do believe building 7 is where the math faculty are. And we in building 9 on the first floor, you'll find the business. And on the second floor is us, the communications folks. So if you're taking a public speaking class, you're going to go to building 9. But I'm an online student. Okay, if you're an online student, how do you go to your professor's office hours? On Zoom. Yep. They generally have office hours on Zoom. Good. How many of you would say that you feel very, very comfortable talking to your professor, especially about a grade that you got? Let's say you got a grade, you felt like the grade should be better. How many of you will make an appointment and go and talk to the professor or go to the office hours of the professor? So Ty says yes, Maria says yes. What about the rest of you? No, yeah. May says I do, Ghislaine says no. Isaiah says no, probably not, sometimes. Jeanette says I do, Joel says sometimes I do. It is a little intimidating. When I was your age, when I was in college, I was totally intimidated about going to see a professor. But if I felt like, on the rare occasion where I felt like I needed to talk about the grade, I would muster up the courage. It isn't easy, guys. It can be intimidating. But that shouldn't stop you. What about going to talk to your advisors? Let's say that you need help with an advisor. How comfortable do you feel going to talk to your trio advisors or your academic advisors? How comfortable do you feel talking to your advisors? And do you feel more comfortable talking to your advisors than you do your professors? Well, those yeses are coming fast. So what's the difference? Why are you so comfortable speaking with your advisors and not your professors or your instructors? What's the difference, guys? Joel says, I never actually talked to an advisor. Joel.
Joe, that's gonna have to change, my boy.
So Joyce says it's more personal, and Jeanette says some help, but not all. The professor is strictly about work. Yeah. So I think that what makes it more intimidating is that the professor is holding your grades in their hands. Yeah. And that makes it more intimidating. I'm sure I'm going to say, well, I was going to say this, but I'm going to ask you, what are some of the things that you debate before going to see your professor or your instructor in your mind? What do you say to yourself? You know, what are some of the thoughts? If I go to see my professor about this grade, they'll definitely change the grade. Is that what you think? Tone of voice, yes. Sometimes Sergio says, the way I word myself, exactly. Yes. How do I phrase my concerns politely? Love that. It's your approach. It's your approach, my God. And this is not just for professors. It could be for a manager, a supervisor, even a personal approach. You got to know how to approach your professors well. So here's the deal. Professors generally work very, very hard for their degree. And so it's important that you understand that you address them by the right title. Now, not all doctors, a doctor is somebody with a PhD, but not all professors have PhDs. So sometimes it's better to just say professor than to say doctor, so-and-so. And please, guys, for God's sake, don't go in with, hey, Carole. Now, that is not to say that some professors.
Wow. Carole, though? Carole?
That's what I'm saying. You don't do that.
Gosh.
You
Don't do it, y'all.
And I don't like, hey, prof, or hey. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't some professors that don't mind you calling them by their first name, but let them tell you first that it's okay for you to call them by their first name. And this is true even of your advisors. Don't just assume that you can say, hey, Jonathan, my man, what's going on? Because some people are more formal than others. And some people have earned the right for the formality. So find out how to address the person and don't insult them. It is still a very professional setting. Now tell the truth. Let me tell you something, guys. I've heard a grandmother and grandfather die 6 times. Dogs have died many times. People have had to go for emergency appendectomies many times, and you only have one appendix, guys. So don't lie. Do not lie. Remember that even if you're in my SLS class, you may see me again in my public speaking class, and you may use the same excuse that you used in my SLS class. Not only that, but there are professors that sit around. We go to lunch together in our department. Sometimes 2 departments meet, the English department and the speech department. And we talk about the students that are in our classes. So if one of the students came to a math class, but did not come to my public speaking class and told me that their grandma died. Houston, we have a problem. Tell the truth, guys. Then be prepared to do the work. If you've missed an assignment or a test, then know that you need to be better prepared. Don't expect that, I missed it, so what? There's another one. The professor should be okay with it. What's the big deal? Now, I'm not saying that most of you think like that, but I am saying there are some students who think like that, right? And so remember that you gotta, if you're in college, prepare to understand that you gotta do the work. And then, as many of you just said in the chat, be prepared to be clear and concise, watch your tone. And here's what you should not say. I'm here about the grade you gave me. What's wrong with that statement?
Oof.
Professors don't give you grades, you earn grades, honey.
Oh,
So,
yes, yes, yes.
honestly, and I know that might sound trite, but it's true, you earn grades. Now, sometimes the professor makes a mistake and gave you a grade that they shouldn't have. And if I've done that, I will apologize to the student. Because sometimes we're grading and we're going through these things real fast. But generally speaking, you earn a grade. You're not given a grade. So don't go in with that attitude. I'm here to talk about the grade you gave me.
Oh,
You are, once you start off like that, I can assure you, it's all downhill from there. I can assure you. Now, before we get to the quizzes, you know, the fun part, for those of you who have never been to one of my workshops, I ended up with a quiz, either a Kahoot or a Quizzes. We do 10 questions, and then I give away 3 gift cards. This is going to be 3 $10 gift cards. First, second, and third prize is a $10 Amazon e-gift card. I hope you have Amazon Prime, because the delivery alone could be $10. Anyway, I'm sorry, that's funny. But have you learned a little bit more about effective listening? Have you learned a little bit more about the difference between active and passive listening? Do you understand why effective communication is important, especially with your professors? And do you understand now how to communicate in college more effectively? Now, is there anything you'd like to add? Because some of you have a lot of experience that maybe you can say to your classmates, here's what I would suggest when it comes to communication, or here's what I suggest when it comes to active listening. Do you have any suggestions for your classmates?
Dr. Oh, I'll let Amia go first.
Yes, Amir, go ahead. You can unmute. Yes.
I think what I'll say about communication, like I remember there was an incident last semester where one of my friends in the class, she had a situation going on with her kids and everything. So she kept like stepping out of the class, but she didn't really communicate anything that was going on with the professor. So like in his eyes, he's just like, oh, she's not participating. She keeps leaving the class. So I feel like definitely like communicating whatever is going on in your life as like to the extent of what you want to share or what you can share, definitely just like communicating thoroughly with the professor, whether that's before class, during class, or stepping to the side and saying like, you know, hey, this is going on, so I need to take time, because like it can result in like a miscommunication. You could lose points for participation, or, you know, the professor could just think you're just blatant out, like just trying to skip class or something. So definitely just communicating thoroughly with the professor about anything that's going on.
Excellent, excellent advice, Amir. Excellent advice. Communicating, it's intimidating to go up to the front and say, excuse me, can I talk to you a minute? I have a situation with my kids. I may have to step in and out, but that's important that you do that. Love that. Who else? Anyone else?
I
No?
had a little, I had a
Go
little
ahead.
something, Dr. Hargrett. Like sometimes there were classes where when I was in undergrad that like I'd be really, man, I was struggling and that's the truth. We got to be honest. We'd be struggling sometimes to pay attention. And so what I would do is I would just raise my hand and I'd be like, Professor, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that real quick? Could you just say that one more time? And then because I initiated that, I have no choice but to make sure I listen the second time, because if not, I'm putting myself out there. You know, how am I gonna put myself out there? Then I don't listen the second time. So then when I listen the second time, I hear it and I listen, and then if I'm not still not understanding, I'll ask a question about what just heard. So maybe I'll be like, "Hey, could you repeat that thing about the formula?" And then she repeats it, and I'm listening this time, and then I'll be like, "Okay, how do I make sure I'm doing the formula correct or something about it?" So don't be afraid to ask to the professor to repeat themselves, and then once you're listening, you'll be able to follow up with a question that helps enhance your understanding even more.
Yes, excellent. That's excellent advice, Thomas. Excellent advice. It's intimidating sometimes to speak in class, but it's your education, guys. You've got to take an active role. When you leave college, you want to leave with everything you can get, right? And as you saw, that there is a higher correlation between students who listen actively and students who don't in terms of grades. That's a difference between an A and a B. An A, let's say an A and a C. And A's and B's can get you scholarships that C's and D's cannot, right? And so those are some of the reasons why you should consider trying to get a higher grade in a class. All right, so next we are going to go to our Kahoot. And so where's my Kahoot? Let me find it and share it so that you guys So what you're going to do now is go to joinmyquiz.com. Joinmyquiz.com. And this is a fun activity, but it helps you to solidify the learning. But also you will be able to get a little gift certificate that, just can buy something cute for yourself. And so first, second, and third prize get a $10 gift certificate, an e-gift certificate that comes to you through email. Joinmyquiz.com, game code 422675. Could you put the link in the chat, please? Okay. Joinmyquiz.com. Go to joinmyquiz.com. Let me see. Let me get the actual link and put it in the chat. Give me a second. Can I share it at this point? Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, here it is. Copy. And Let's see. See if that will help. I don't know if it helps or not because I don't think that that's the, anyway, try that. Let's see, stop sharing. Okay, let me share again. So joinmyquiz.com is the website and the game code is 422675. You can use your phone, you can use your, if you have a Wi-Fi capability on your tablet or your computer, you can use those. We've got 14 in. And let's see how many students we have. Got 24. So we'll wait another minute and then we'll get started. So joinmyquiz.com, 422675 is the code. Great. Couple more coming in. We'll wait till 1:57 and we'll get started. What do we have? The code again. The code is, let me put it in, 422675. 422675. Great. I see you, Sergio. All right, we're going to get started. Ready? All right, here we go. Let's see who started us off well. Oh. Yeah, you should always go over the assignment first, so you make sure that you understood what the assignment instructions were. So Elizabeth, Amia, and Ghislaine, you're in the lead. You don't want to ask about your grade in the front of the class as soon as you get there. You want to ask your professor if you could go to their office hours or something, but don't just sit there in the class and say, Professor, I want to talk about my grade. It's just not something you want to do, right? All right, let's see. Guys, this is not okay. You want to make sure that you're communicating with your professor or advisor, because their times are very, very important along with yours. All right, next. Now, I know I didn't spend a lot of time on this topic, but certainly emailing your professor is a very good way to contact your professor, especially to start the conversation. Very good. Next. Now, I got to tell you, this is one of my big pet peeves. When I get an email from a website, from an email that says something like babylovesyou.com, I don't know who you are. And so use your college provided email, or if you've developed an email in Gmail, at least give it your first and last name so people know who the heck you are. Because generally speaking, I have classes of 30 students. Many times I have 6 classes of 30 students. I'm not going to know who you are, nor are your other professors. So try not to use your email, you know, your fun private email that maybe you developed for, you know, your significant other. So again, many professors will say, you can call me by my first name, but this is generally not the norm, it's the exception. So try not to call your professor by their first name. Now, question number, I believe this is 8, yeah, 8 of 10. I know that was corny. They are cool like that. But trust me, they ain't cool like that.
Dr. Hargrett, I feel like you had personally a bad experience with somebody calling you prof one day.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not one day, it's often. It's not so much the prof, but it's the hey.
Yeah, like,
you know?
Hey, what's up? Like, yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
It's just not, it just, I guess I'm of a different era. So hey irks me. All right, guys. Our last question is coming up. And you have one last chance to get on the leaderboard. If you're not communicating, especially with your trio advisors, you're missing out on a lot. But you could get sometimes a better grade if you communicate with your professors. So I know it's intimidating, but try your best to do it. All right, let's see who won. First, second, and third. And then I would ask the third, second, and third prize winners to put their email addresses in the chat. And you will receive an Amazon e-gift card.
I see you, Isaiah. I see you in first place, baby.
All right. So if you would, those who won first, second, and third, please put your email in the chat for me so that I could send you your gift card. It was a pleasure presenting this workshop to you. I hope you enjoyed it, but I hope that you learned. So